Okay, everybody, here we are at part 2 of our video. We're on page 257, and we're talking about estimating percents from pictures. So let's just review really quickly. You know that 100% means one or one whole, and 50% means half. These are really big keys that you need to know moving forward. So we did the first 3 together on our previous video. So now we're going to move to letter D. So letter D is almost empty. So we know it's not going to even be close to the 50%, and it's going to be nowhere near 100%. And we remembered that there were 4 total bars, possibles, right? Because this one was 3, one more would have made one whole. This is half of 1. So we're going to do just a half. And then when we do that, when we put that in the calculator, we do 0.5 divided by 4 in the calculator, and we get 0.125. And then when we multiply that by 100, we get 12.5%. This is 2.5, so it would be 2.5 out of 4. We know that 2.5 is going to be greater than 2. We have a little bit more than half, so our answer should be a little bit bigger than 50%. So 2.5 divided by 4 gives us 0.625. Multiply by 100, and that would be 62.5%. This, there's nothing out of 4, so that's 0%. Turning to 258. We are not going to do all these, but there are a couple that I really want to point out. B, we're going to look at B, we're going to look at G, and we're going to look at I. Okay? This, pretend is a clock, and I know some of you really have a hard time reading a clock, or pretend this is a piece of pie. If I were to break this up into 4 equal sections here, this section 1 is shaded, this section 2 is shaded, section 3 is shaded. So 3 out of our 4 pieces are shaded. And you should remember that 3 out of 4 is 75%. But if you don't remember that from the last video, we just take 3 divided by 4, we get 0.75. Always multiply by 100, and we would get 75%. Multiplying by 100, you're just moving your decimal 2 places to the right. So, question. Let's just look really quickly at C. I know I said we weren't going to do C, but quickly look at C. If I cut this in half, this whole part is 50%. This shaded part, is it going to be less than or greater than 50? This is actually going to be less than 50. This is about 30% or so, and this is 20%. Okay, I knew that because I knew it was going to be less than 50 because half of that wasn't shaded. All right, look at G. 1/3 of our triangle is shaded, so 1/3, we have 3 pieces, which is 0.33 repeating, so that's 33.3%. And I is going to be 1/4, which is 1 divided by 4, 0.25 times 100 is 25%. These take a while. I don't want to spend too much time on them. Strategies we use to make estimates: divided. I divided the pictures into easier pieces, like 4 for the battery. All right, pause the video, and I'm going to keep going, but you can pause and write. That was activity 1. And now we're going to move on to activity 2. Determining equivalence. So this page 259 is blank because we're just going to do the graph on page 260. So it says, the 6th grade class, let's see, can you read it? I'm sorry. The 6th grade class is planning a field trip to Philadelphia. To decide which historical visit, the 100 6th graders completed a survey. And the table on page 260 records the results of the survey. So it's really important, remembering our habit of mind, attending to precision, it's really important to know how many total 6th graders or how many total people were surveyed. In our case, it's 100. So let's flip to 260. I'm going to write that up here. 100 total surveyed. 100 total surveyed. I'm going to go ahead and write that down. So, of the 100 total surveyed, 35 wanted to go to the Liberty Bell. I've been to Liberty Bell. It's not that cool. I'm going to literally color in 35 boxes. There's 10 in each row. So that's 10, 20, or in each column, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 35 boxes are colored. Our fractions are always over 100. 35 over 100. Our decimal is 0 and 35 hundredths, and our percent is 35%. Notice my number never ever changes, right? My number was 35, 35, 35, and 35. Number isn't going to change. It's not like we're going to magically make it into a 60. It stays 35. And guess what? All of these are going to be the same. They're all going to be the same. 22 should be in every single column. 30, every single column. 13, every single column. Okay? So let's do this. 22 of the students chose Independence Hall. I've been there. It's a lot cooler than the Liberty Bell. So I know, and it doesn't matter how many you color or in which order you color, as long as you shade in 22 boxes. So that means my fraction is 22 over 100, 0 and 22 hundredths, 22%. 30, I'm gonna circle these. 30 students chose the National Constitution Center. I've been there too, it's really cool. So I'm gonna shade in 3 rows, because each row has 10, 10, 20, 30. My fraction's always out of 100, 30 out of 100, 0 and 30 hundredths, 30%. If you don't know that 30 becomes 0.30, we would do 30 divided by 100, and it will get you 0.30. This one is 22 divided by 100, and it will give you your answer. This is 35 divided by 100. Okay, and then we would take 0.35 times 100 to get our decimal to our percent. Okay, times 100. Get that. All right, 13 chose the Betsy Ross house. I've never been to the Betsy Ross house. Sounds cool. Does anybody know who Betsy Ross was? If you can tell me or email me, Miss Sack, and tell me who Betsy Ross was, I'll give you $1. All right, you gotta email me though. I'm gonna shade in 13 boxes. So I've got, let's see, I think I accidentally did more than 13. 10, 11, yep, I sure did. I did more than 13. So I'm just gonna scratch that out. We're gonna pretend like I didn't do that. So we've got this and these 3 right here. All right, so I've got 13 boxes. So I do 13 over 100. I take 13 divided by 100, and I got 0.13. I take that, multiply it by 100 to get my percent of 13%. Guess they're not going to the Betsy Ross house, huh? 0 students chose the terminal reading market, or the reading terminal market. I'm not going to shade anything in. My fraction is 0 over 100, 0.00, and 0%. Are you planning on going on the trip? Everyone is going. Oh, yay, that's exciting. Philadelphia is a really cool place. 100 out of 100. That's 1.0. I take 100 divided by 100, and then I take this times 100 and I get 100%. So if you need to pause, if you need to write down, if you don't understand, you need to make sure you ask Mr. Christian, Ms. Choquette, or Ms. Sack when you come back to class. All right, activity 2 continued. Recall that a percent is a special part to whole ratio, right? Part to whole ratio with a whole always being 100. The whole is 100, so that tells you your denominator is always going to be 100. You can also think of a percent as a fraction in which the denominator is 100. You can use percents, fractions, and decimals interchangeably. Okay, so here we go. You can write 15 out of 100 as the fraction of 15 over 100. Because percent means out of 100, you can also write it as 15%. Express each fraction in the survey as a percent in the last column of the table. Well, guess what? We already did that, right? So, C table. Write a summary of the results of the student survey using percents. Okay, so let's take a look back here. We've got 35% want the Liberty Bell, 22 wanted Independence Hall, 30 wanted the Constitution Center, 13 wanted the Betsy Ross House. Don't forget, tell me who that is. 0 chose the Terminal Market. So let's write a summary using those percents. Our summary, 100% of the 6th graders, I don't know why I always get these big writing ones, are going, Mr. Christian's laughing at me, are going to Philly. True, right? 100%, we colored the whole thing in. 0% wanted to see the Reading Terminal Market. I'm going to abbreviate Reading Terminal Market. Okay, then we could say 13% chose to visit the Betsy Ross House. 30% want to see the National Constitution Center. 22% chose Independence Hall. There's no air conditioning, by the way, it's very hot. Independence Hall. And 35% selected the Liberty Bell. You're going to be real disappointed. It's just a big bell with a crack in it. That's it. All right, pause and write that down. You can abbreviate, it's fine, as long as we are using percents. Then number 3, compare the percents and decimals you wrote in the table to determine a pattern. Use this pattern to write a rule. I think we already did that. So let's compare the percents to the decimals. Percents to decimals, they're the same number, right? We're just changing the decimal. So here the decimal moves 2 places to the right to make a percent, and then to make a decimal, we move 2 places to the left. So here's my rule. To change a decimal to a percent, move the decimal, again with all the writing, 2 places right. That's the first part, okay? The second part is the opposite. To change a percent to a decimal, move the decimal 2 places left. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's do 75, 0.75 is our example. This is our example. To make it into, from decimal to percent, we move it 2 places right, which becomes 75%. And we never really write the decimal, but now you can see it, okay? And then over here, if we have 75%, here's our decimal, we move 2 places left, and we have our decimal again, okay? Pause that. The back page is going to give us a lot of practice. Here we go. Activity 2. Write each number as a percent. Write each number as a percent. Well, I want to make a percent. So I'm going to circle percent. I put a box around it so I know I have to have percents on each. Our rule, the rule was decimal 2 places right. Or we can multiply by 100 if we have a calculator. Okay? So here we have our decimal. We move it 2 places to the right and we will get 32%. This, we have 2 places to the right, we will get 7%. Here we move 2 places to the right and we will get 73.81%. And it is okay to have decimals in your percents. That's okay. Here we move 2 places to the right and we will get 152%. It's okay to have numbers bigger than 100 be percents as well. Oh no, we don't have anything back there. I guess we can't turn that into a percent. False. We fill it in with zeros. So we will go 1, 2. 2 places to the right would be 40%. And here, 2 places to the right, fill it in with zeros. We will get 400%. A lot of kids get E and F wrong. So make sure you are filling in your place values. Okay, write each percent as a decimal. Our rule is the decimal goes to the left. 2 places left. Up here it was multiply by 100, so down here we're gonna, or you can divide by 100. Okay? You can divide by 100 or multiply by 100. Multiply by 100 to make a percent, divide by 100 to get a decimal. If you don't see a decimal, the decimal is invisible and it's behind the number. It's to the right. So we move 2 places left and we will get 0 and 47/100ths. Here, we move 2 places to the right. We have to fill in a 0, and we get 0.3. Or you can take 3 divided by 100. Either way. We have our decimal. We're going to move it 2 places to the left. We get 0 and 125 thousandths. Here, we have our decimal 2 places to the left. It's 1 and 25 hundredths. Here is going to be 0.80. Or 0 and 80 hundredths. And here, we have to fill in a 0. We get 0 and 0 and 5 hundredths. Okay? You can use different methods to write a fraction as a percent. When the denominator of a fraction is a factor of 100, scale up, which a couple of these are. When the denominator is not, you can divide the numerator by the denominator and write it as a decimal and then as a percent. So we're going to write each fraction as a percent. Round your answer to the nearest tenth of a percent. So I have these memorized. I know 4/5 off the top of my head is 80%. I know 3/10 is 30%. Those are ones that you should have memorized by the time you're an adult. Okay, but you're not yet. So we are going to make this with a denominator of 100. we're gonna scale up. 5 times what is 100? 5 times 20 is 100. So then we have to multiply 4 times 20 and we would get 80. And 80 over 100 is 80%. Remember, we're writing as a percent. We can turn 10 into a 100 by multiplying by 10. We can multiply the top by 10 as well. 3 times 10 is 30, so that equals 30%. I'm gonna skip C for a minute and we're gonna do D. We can turn 2 into a 100 by multiplying by 50. So that means we would have to take the top by 50. And we would get 150, which is 150%. It's okay if your numerator is bigger than your denominator, because in our example, or the original, 3 is larger than 2. So your denominator has to remain larger than your numerator, and that's okay. Now, letter C, we could take 3 divided by 8 in our calculator, and you're gonna get 0 and 375 thousandths. And then we'll move our decimal here and we would get 37.5%. You could also do long division. I don't have room for that. I don't have time for that. Use your calculator. We could also scale down. We could divide this by 2 and then we'd have to divide the numerator by 2, but 3 divided by 2 is not a pretty number. So we're just gonna use our calculator and do 3 divided by 8 and get 375 thousandths, and then you can multiply that by 100. Get. If you need to pause to finish your notes. All right, here we go. Label each mark on the number line with a fraction and decimal and percent, and then we're gonna write it in lowest terms. So, I love this stuff. Sorry, you probably can't see it. There we are. It gives us a fraction of 1/3. So this is going to be 2/3. And this is 1. 1 is 3/3. Okay? So 1/3 as a decimal, I'm going to do 1 divided by 3 and I get 0.333 repeating. And then as a percent, that's 33.3%. This should be written as longer. 66 like this, and it'll be 66.6%. Remember, I just do 1 divided by 3 in my calculator. 1 divided by 3. To get this, I do 2 divided by 6, and then I take this number and I times by 100. Ooh, okay, so what are these? There's how many notches? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I know I'm dividing this into eighths. Well, that's a 2. I'll tell you why in a minute. 7's done for us. 1/8 is 8/8. So that's 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. 4/8 is the same as a half. If we scale that down and divide by 4 on top and bottom, we get 1/2. 5/8, 6/8. And it asks us to write each fraction in lowest terms. This is lowest term, so 2/8 is equal to 1/4. And 6/8 is equal to 3/4. So we know 1/4 is 0.25. 3/8 is 0.375. I also know that without using a calculator, because 37.5%, if I move my decimal 2 places to the left, I get 0.35. This is 0.5 or 50%. Did those two. 7/8. I can't remember 7/8 off the top of my head. So I'm going to do 7 divided by, it's like 87.5. That's what it is. So I get 0.875. Now, to find my percents, I multiply by 100. I take my decimal and multiply it by 100, and I get 12.5%. They did 25%, 37.5%, so this one's going to be 62.5%. You cannot forget the 0.5, or it's going to be wrong. 75%, 87.5%, and 100%. Beautiful. Okay, here we have the tenths down here. We know it's tenths because they've already done the first one for us. So we know that this is going to be 2/10, but we can simplify that to 1/5. 3/10. 2/5 is the same as 4/10. 5/10 is the same as 1/2. 6/10 is the same as we divide by 2. We get 3/5. 7/10. 8/10 is the same as, we're going to divide by 2. We get 4/5. And then 9/10, and then 1/2 is 10/10. So 1/10 as a fraction or as a decimal is literally, you write it as 1/10. You write it how it sounds. 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, and 1/2. To get my percent, remember I multiply by 100. This is 10%, 20%, 30%. I hope you get the pattern here. 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%, and 1/2. Pause if you need to. Okay. Activity 3. Activity 3. Let's see how long the video is so far. Not bad. All right, activity 3. Reasoning with ratios and percents. On Saturday, Melanie won 3 out of 4 of her tennis matches at the Redstone tournament. On Sunday, she won 1 out of 4 of her matches at the Mesa tournament. So we know Melanie won 3 out of 4 on Saturday and 1 out of 4 on Sunday. Okay, I'm just gonna make a note for myself so I don't forget. Each student summarized Melanie's record over the weekend. Melanie won 100% of her matches, according to Patrick, because 3/4 plus 1/4 is 4/4, which is equal to 1. Oh, interesting. Well, we know, because the book tells us, that Patrick is wrong. Laura says Melanie only won 50% of her matches. 3/4 on Saturday, plus 1 out of 4 on Sunday is 4 matches won over 8 total matches. That is a correct logical way of thinking. Jonathan says that Melanie won 4 out of 8 matches played. 3 matches won to 4 matches played. 1 match won to 8 matches played, or 4 matches played on Sunday, excuse me. 4 matches won to 8 matches played. So what is wrong with Patrick's reasoning? What did Patrick do wrong? What did he forget to do? Patrick, again with all this writing, good thing I have good handwriting, right? Patrick forgot to add Melanie's total matches. According to him, how many matches did she play? According to him, she only played 4 matches. But she played 4 on Saturday and 4 on Sunday, so really she played 8. She played 4 matches. But she really played 8. 8 total. Okay. Now it says, what is the same about Laura and Jonathan's reasoning, and what is different? Well, the same is that they both created equivalent ratios. And they both got the number of matches correct and the total number of matches correct. It's only different because he used a colon to set up his ratio and she used fractions. So Laura used fractions, fractional form, and John used colon form to set up his ratios. Both are correct. All right, pause if you need to. We're almost done. All right, so on page 265 and 266, so 265 goes with a matching game. We may or may not do this in class, but we are not going to do it on this video. So we can say skip on video. But please don't scratch through it. We might do it in class, okay? Talk the talk. I'm not going to do the talk the talk on this video. Again, we're going to skip on video. And if we might want to do this in class, we could do it together as a class. But for now, we're going to skip it. And then 267, I do believe, starts your lesson activity. So if you don't understand anything, you need to make sure that you talk to Mr. Christian, Ms. Choquette, or Mrs. Sack, or all three of us, or one of us. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.